Well, good morning this time. Michael and Israel here with another Tech Tuesday, doing it morning times. We're kind of changing things up, just depending on who can catch us at different times and all that kind of stuff. So let us know if you've got a preferred time. I'd appreciate that. Drop it in the comments if it's easier to hide from your boss, later in the afternoon and watch, then we can certainly accommodate. But as always, if you got any questions, drop them in the comments. Make sure you click into our feed and drop it in the comments there so that we can see it. I've got a couple of questions that I've pulled, but we'd much rather answer your questions and help you out and talk to you about what you want to talk about. So, I want to start out with we won't go on full on fishing report, but you actually got to go. You fished a tournament this past weekend.
Yeah, we caught a limit. It was not a very big limit. We lost some good fish, but
well,
part of the game.
Casting for Cancer, that was the tournament,
Yes.
Right, on Neely. Yeah, that I know they do that every Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
10th anniversary. Is that
Yeah,
somebody won
yeah.
$1,000 for 10th place?
10th place, yeah. I was hoping I would be that guy, but and then I was competing. Really, I was competing hard for smallest fish. I was really close. I think mine was 0.8 something.
Oof.
And the winning one was like 0.62. I don't know how you get a 0.62 fish that measures out, but I think Danny Bailey may have gotten that fish. So.
You I don't know, get it to drain all the water out of it or something. That's crazy. All right, well,
I caught a bunch of. I mean, we probably caught 20 fish while I was out there. So, but we did get like a super thin one, and it was like it was like 11.9. It was close to 12, but we couldn't.
Well,
it wouldn't measure out. So.
Definitely good of you to get out with Art Newberian from Spear Point.
Yeah.
He just packed up his family and moved from California over here. Spear Point Hook, Performance Hooks. Now a Gadsden resident, or for those of you that are local, Rainbow City actually. But I know he's out on the water all the time.
Mm-hmm. He went out yesterday. He caught some good fish yesterday.
All right. Well, guys, again, we'd like your questions, but if you don't have any questions, then I'm going to make some up. And we'll see where it goes.
Make this a tutorial.
Yeah, a tutorial. Yes. Well, we've got some basic maintenance questions that came up that I saw in the Yamaha group. 2002 F50 TLHA, that's a lot of letters. Had all 4 cars rebuilt for $1,250. Took the boat out this weekend. Couldn't get past 23 miles an hour with tow people, no gear. Also, could not get past 5,200 RPM at wide open throttle. Got home and found this. Any idea if this is the problem?
Probably not. That just sucks a little bit of. Probably, I would still say probably not. That pulls any kind of fumes out of the crankcase, so it needs to be hooked up. But that's a pretty common thing for somebody to forget to put on. It's not that big a deal, but I do know this, that a lot of times people will pull their boats out of the water to get them worked on, and depending on what kind of water you're in, there'll be a big scum line on the pontoons, and if you don't clean them while it's out of the water, what happens is that slick scum line, the hairs of that scum kind of start sticking out and drying.
Gotcha.
And you can lose like 10, 15 mile an hour with that stuff drying like that. And it doesn't, usually when you get it wet again, it doesn't soften up to the point where it makes your boat dry better. I've had it bet customers several times an acid tune if their boat didn't pick up speed after I cleaned their acid or acid wash their tunes, I'd pay for it. And every time it's always picked up 7-8 mile an hour, and they had to pay me for the work eventually.
And I hate that we don't know exactly what kind of boat it was, but probably probably a safe assumption if they're towing and carrying stuff. Anything on that RPM issue, 1500, 5200
Yeah, it should
RPM?
probably, that depending on what you have and what you're towing, should be somewhere. It should be above 5,500, preferably. So,
Well,
but there's a lot of outside factors. I don't know the whole story. It could have been
right.
sitting up 2 years, and could have a crappy prop. But the main thing in that picture is that tube is not, it's probably not gonna cause you to lose, 5-6 miles an hour.
All right.
But it is a 50. Who knows how fast a 50 would push a pontoon? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's that 23. If it's a pontoon with a 50, 23
Seems like
is
it's
actually
moving pretty good.
yeah. That's actually
And your tack could be off too. So
all right. So, and this is we're going to see. I know this time of year we're probably going to see more and more basic maintenance questions as we get them out there as people get ready for the end of the season. But am I hurting anything if I remove the cowling on my F-150 and spray with salt away, and then hose it all down with water?
you could. I mean, you've got to be careful where you spray. You don't want to spray near the intake because it's going to. There's a little spot on the bottom of those little intakes that will hold water, and you can be filling your bottom cylinder up with water. So you have to be super careful. Electronics and stuff, you don't want to spray those down, especially ECUs. So I would say a fine mist at best, and just be real careful of high pressure spraying anything. And what I usually do if I have to wash the engine, I'm careful about where I wash it, but afterwards I do shop air. I blow as much of the actual dampness off the block and off electronics as I can. So
Gotcha. Any other? We're not really a salt away kind of an area. But any other good cleaning products that you've seen?
You can actually use like something to cover that stuff to keep it from spreading, which is like a Yama shield or something like that. And that just puts a fine, kind of film over it, waxy film that keeps it from doing it in the first place. So.
All right. Well, all right. Well, guys, if y'all don't have any questions, and I see there's a few of you that are out there, it kind of makes me feel a little lonely, but that's all right. I've only got one more, and then I guess we'll call it a day. But this is more on that engine maintenance and just general. But basically, has anyone used this touch-up paint before? Is it any good? The black isn't doing it for me. And I guess extend that into what do you recommend as far as doing
Yamaha they usually use pretty good paint companies, so it's not going to be like if you buy stuff that has add hardener to it. This stuff usually takes a little bit longer to dry. I will say this: if you're painting with this paint, you have to know very specifically you can't go back and paint over it again the next day. So if you spray it and you're gonna let it dry, and it's like, well, I'll come and put another coat, and the next day it wrinkles up and does really weird bad stuff. So you've got to, within an hour, I would say even 45 minutes, if you're going to paint it and spray it, you got to do it all the coats you need to do within an hour of each coat. So that's where you have to be careful.
Okay. Well, that's maybe that's why it's not doing it for him. Maybe he did that.
Yeah.
All right. So 99, 80 horsepower. Any cracks in exhaust upper casing? I'm not sure what the question. Can you figure out what he's getting at?
Well, I guess I would ask you: is it number one? Is it a 4-stroke engine? Are you having hearing exhaust leaks or something? And I guess he wants to know if you got to have a whole upper casing. Typically, exhaust leaks on those on the engine, depending on what it is. I don't know if it's a 2-stroke, then you usually have a tuner issue. Sometimes the lower unit gasket's not on it. There's a little gasket around the tuner for the lower unit. 4-stroke. I wouldn't say normal defect. It's usually it's usually from use and sometimes saltwater electrolysis of some sort. So I know if you're near the ocean, that's a pretty typical thing that goes bad, and you just have to take everything apart and there's like a little plate in there with a gasket, and usually it's the plate that divides the oil and the water. That it'll just corrode through and eventually open up. So there are some, So there's some instances where they have near the exhaust, where the exhaust comes uh, close to where the oil passage is in the actual adapter plate, where it will, if you've got the wrong kind of prop, it'll actually burn a hole in that adapter plate, and it'll start putting water into the oil. So, and that seems like it seems like the 150s had the biggest issue with that, and that's usually because you got too big of a prop. You know, you're not getting into the RPM range, and it's loading up, it's dumping extra fuel in the system, and that extra fuel and that exhaust turns into a nasty mix. It can actually start corroding the metal, and it's a pretty thin spot. You know, where I've heard about this. I haven't seen it in person, but when I go to school, everybody tells us their horror stories, and that's one of them. So, in salt water environment, it's going to be even worse because you already have something that's corroding the metal anyway, and you start dumping fuel, and if that fuel's got ethanol in it, then it's gonna happen even faster. So, yeah.
All right.
But yours is a '99 model, so it's lasted a pretty good while.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, Michael, I hope that helps and gives you some idea of what you need to do. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions popping in, guys. So I think, and I think you're juggling multiple duties today.
Yes,
so
yeah.
He's got to go make sure that the service department doesn't get it out of control.
That's right. Since my wife's sick.
But guys, thank y'all. You're welcome, Michael. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Again, if you've got any questions, you watch this later on down the road, drop them in the comments. I try to go through and pull them and pull them into the next one. Yeah, hope you guys have a great day and a great week, and we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.